Welcome. So what I want to do now is talk through creating a KPI visual in Power BI. Really useful. Different ways you can represent it, but its basic idea or premise, as you'd imagine, is to say we have a key performance indicator, and is that key performance indicator currently below or below the goal? So as you can see from the screen, I've got an example in the top right hand corner, which is the KPI, project KPI for trainers, found the software easy to use. The goal was 65 of the responses from the surveys, either strongly agreed with it or agreed with it. And we had 67 altogether, so we're above the goal. So its KPI has been met. It's green with a big tick, which is great for the software evaluation. So if I take a step back and look over at the left-hand side, what this challenge is really about, or has been set, is we're trying a new piece of software with some trainers, and they're using that software with their trainees. There's 120 trainers using the software, of which we surveyed them. And the survey asked a number of questions. There are two key questions which we're going to talk about now. The first question is, if they reflect on their use in terms of creating and using the software, how easy was it? To what extent would they agree with the following statement, that it was very easy to use? And if they can either have strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. And we've got this KPI target for this, that the trainers responded to question 1, strongly agreeing or agreeing. At least 65% of them responded that way. The second question is slightly different, and that's their perceptions of overall. Did they think their trainees enjoyed and were engaged more in the sessions when they used that software than when they didn't? So do they strongly agree or did all the way through to disagree with that statement? Again, we have a target of 65% of the respondents said that. So we've got a target that's all nicely set. I've created an example already. I'm going to reproduce this for KPI 2 for question 2. So without further ado, let's get started. So firstly, I'm going to select my visual. So from the visual gallery, I select the KPI. And I'm just going to drag it a little bit to give it a bit more space. And then the KPI asks for the values that you wish to use. So let's add some data. So I know what my target is, and we click on that. And then with the data I have available here, I've got evaluation KPI targets. So these are sheets that I've created earlier. I have the target data, and that's in there. The value is the responses, and this is for question 2. So what were the responses for that? And I put those in. And the trend axis is really important because this helps you create the actual visual. So it might be over, if I was looking at longitudinal data or whatever, it might be over a time period. But I'm actually just going to, for simplicity, I can go back into I can add the same responses to question 2 into there. And then we create our KPI. So that's leaping straight in. Before I change the look and feel, let's just jump back and have a little look at the actual tables, because I've done some stuff there and you've not seen the underlying data. So you're probably thinking, what's he up to? So if we look at this, as I say, we have an evaluation KPI. So this is a table with one measure in it, which is KPI target. Now I manually entered that. That could be something you use a measure to create or whatever, but you need to give it your target somehow, so that it can compare the responses to that target. The other table I've got are the responses for question 1 and question 2. Those that strongly agreed and agreed, 67% and 60%. And you're probably thinking, that's very nice, Andy, but where'd you get the data from? And this is from my survey data. So I did a count in Excel just to count those up. I could have actually done that really easily in Power BI, but I didn't need to show that as part of this activity. So what I've done here is I've counted or collated the sums, the totals of those that strongly agreed or agreed to question 1 and question 2. And now when we go back to the visuals, you can see where this starts to make sense. So the goal was 65, 67 said they strongly agreed or agreed to question 1. It's a big tick. Here the goal is still 65, but only 60 said they agreed or strongly agreed to the ease of use question, or the engagement question, sorry. So it didn't happen and didn't work. So that's how I can create one. Really simple way of creating a KPI. If I wanted to, just to finish it off, tidy it up, we can go into the more options. We can go in and start to add some things and take an opportunity to talk around some of these pieces. So yes, I'll need a title. So I'm going to use engagement, trainees engagement. I'm going to make this larger, a little bit larger. I'm going to happen to put in, because I like a little bit of a background color to help me differentiate my, and I'm going to put in a divider. And yes, I'm going to put in a little box around it to help tidy it all up. So now that's in, let's talk a little bit more, just a walk through some of these. So firstly, I have icons turned on or icons turned off. So if I turn the icons on and off, what we're saying here is the little exclamation mark. So I can turn those on, I turn those off. I can change the size. So the other one I've made a little bit larger, so it's evident there. The trend axis, as I say, is important because that gives you the option. I can change the color if I so wish. How it meets on that trend, I could make that, for whatever reason, I could make that dark blue, and it would change to dark blue. I'm going to keep it red because you associate that with risk, danger, or some trouble. So we have that coming in. The target label, I can again, options here. We don't have a lot of options to play with apart from size. I can turn that on, yeah, or I can turn it off, but I'm going to keep it on. And the distance to goal measure, which we've got in percent, yeah. And we can have it where, again, I can make that, this is the value in brackets, parenthesis, but I quite like that because it gives me a sense of how close I was percent-wise. So I'm only 7% out, only. And that's absolutely fine and works really well there. So that's how I've improved the, and that's how I've met my challenge. So if I was looking at this as part of the team, we've been set the task, we're evaluating the software, we have a project KPI already established. Have we met the KPIs or not? We can tell from the two of the project KPIs on trainers' perceptions of ease of use and trainers' perceptions of impact on engagement. One KPI has been met and one KPI hasn't.